Escrow is the most misunderstood phase of any real estate transaction. And in Portland, Oregon, getting it wrong can derail a closing in the final hours. In this video, we break down exactly how Portland escrow works, the 3 most common mistakes that kill deals, a real-life case story, and the best practices that protect both buyers and sellers. Have escrow questions? VortexREI offers free no-obligation consulting. Call 503-308-9707 or visit VortexREI.com. You've found the house, you've agreed on a price, you've signed the purchase agreement, and now everyone tells you to sit back and wait for escrow to do its thing. Here's what nobody tells you. Escrow is where deals go to die. Not because the process is broken, but because most buyers and sellers have no idea what's actually happening behind the scenes, what can go wrong, and what they should be doing to protect themselves. I'm Richard with VortexREI, and in the next few minutes I'm going to walk you through how Portland's escrow process actually works. The 3 most common mistakes that derail closings, a real case from our experience that nearly went off the rails, and the best practices that keep a deal on track from contract to keys. Let's start with the basics. Escrow is a neutral third-party service, typically run by a title company here in Oregon, that holds your money, your documents, and your signed agreements until every single condition of the purchase contract is met. Only then does anything change hands. Think of your escrow officer as a neutral referee. Their job is to follow the written instructions in your purchase agreement exactly, not to favor the buyer or the seller, but to make sure every box is checked before the deal closes. In Portland, a typical escrow period runs 30 to 45 days. During that time, the buyer deposits earnest money, the seller provides required disclosures, inspections are conducted, appraisals are ordered, the lender completes underwriting, and the title company confirms the seller can actually deliver clean title to the property. Your escrow officer also prepares the closing statement, calculates prorations for property taxes and utilities, and coordinates with Multnomah County Recording Services to make sure your deed is filed the day ownership transfers correctly. Cash deals can close in as few as 10 days if title is clean. But transactions involving estates, existing liens, or title complications can stretch to 60 days or longer. The complexity of Portland's older neighborhoods, with their boundary disputes, inheritance histories, and unpaid contractor bills, makes this city more title-sensitive than most. Now let's talk about where things go wrong. Because in Portland, escrow failures almost always come down to 3 preventable mistakes. Incomplete title research. This is the #1 deal killer. Buyers often assume that their lender's title insurance covers everything. It doesn't. Undiscovered liens, gaps in the ownership chain, boundary disputes, unpaid contractor bills. These can all surface days before closing, forcing last-minute scrambles while the clock ticks on your rate lock and your moving truck is already booked. Portland's older neighborhoods are especially prone to this. Properties that have passed through families, estates, or divorces over decades can carry title issues that don't appear in a standard preliminary report unless someone digs deeper, cross-checking names, family relationships, and address histories. Poor communication between parties. Escrow involves at least 4 parties: buyer, seller, lender, and escrow officer, often more. When communication breaks down, everyone assumes someone else is handling a critical task. Buyers forget to order inspections on time. Sellers delay signing disclosure forms. Lenders request additional documents without looping in the escrow officer. Every delay pushes the closing date, and in Portland's competitive market, that can mean an expired rate lock, a higher interest rate, or a deal that collapses entirely under pressure. Last-minute financing changes. A buyer who changes jobs, makes a large purchase on credit, or moves money between accounts during escrow can trigger a full re-underwriting from their lender, days before closing. These changes look routine to the buyer, but are red flags to an underwriter. The message here is simple. Once you're in escrow, do not make any significant financial moves without talking to your lender first. Let me give you a real example of how bad this can get, and how fast VortexREI moved to fix it. A Portland seller called us 3 days before his scheduled closing. His buyer's lender had just discovered an unresolved boundary dispute recorded against the property, called a lis pendens, filed in Multnomah County records. The seller had no idea it existed. His late father had started the dispute with a neighbor years earlier, never resolved it, and passed away. Here's the kicker. The title company's initial search had missed it, because it was indexed under the father's name, not the property address. The lender refused to fund the loan until it was released. And the neighbor? Currently traveling overseas. Unreachable. We immediately tracked down the neighbor's attorney. We negotiated a temporary limited release, allowing the sale to proceed while the new buyer assumed responsibility for resolving the boundary line after closing. We had the release drafted, notarized via mobile notary, and filed with the county in 48 hours. The lender accepted it. The closing happened on schedule. The seller avoided penalties for missing his move-out date, and the buyer received a $2,000 credit toward future surveying costs. The root cause? The original title search was rushed, and no one dug deeper once the preliminary report came back clean. That assumption nearly cost everyone in that transaction thousands of dollars and weeks of delay. So what does doing escrow right actually look like? Here are the 3 practices we apply to every transaction. Early, layered title verification. The moment a purchase agreement is signed, request the preliminary title report immediately. Don't wait. Then review it beyond the surface level. Cross-check all names on the current deed. Verify that every party who needs to sign at closing is available and reachable, and flag any easements, liens, or ownership gaps for resolution before they become emergencies. If a mechanic's lien from unpaid contractor work shows up, address it that week, not the week before closing. Proactive communication with a shared timeline. Establish a written timeline with every party, escrow officer, lender, agents, with clear deadlines for each contingency. Send reminders 3 days before each deadline and confirm completion the day after. Maintain direct contact with the buyer's lender throughout underwriting, so that appraisal shortfalls or employment verification delays surface early, not as closing day surprises. Early closing statement review and wire fraud vigilance review the estimated closing statement at least 1 week before closing, not the night before. Verify property tax prorations, HOA fees, and utility transfers carefully. Errors here are common in Portland, especially on properties with overlapping tax years or special assessments. And one more thing on wire fraud. This is critically important. Always confirm wire instructions by calling your escrow officer directly, using a phone number you obtained independently. Never trust wire details sent by email. Fraudsters actively impersonate escrow companies with fake emails containing altered account numbers. One wrong wire transfer can cost you everything. Before I wrap up, let me hit a few of the most common escrow questions we hear. Who pays escrow fees in Portland? Typically split between buyer and seller. Expect total fees of $500 to $1,200 depending on the sale price. The exact split is negotiable in your purchase agreement. What if the buyer's financing falls through? If there's a financing contingency in the contract, the buyer exits escrow and gets their earnest money back. No contingency? The seller may keep those funds as damages. Can a seller back out of escrow? Only if the buyer fails to meet a specific contract condition. Otherwise, the seller risks a lawsuit for specific performance, meaning a court can force the sale to proceed. Bottom line, escrow is not a passive waiting period. It's an active process that requires attention, communication, and expertise, especially here in Portland, where title complexity is higher than in most markets. At VortexREI, we offer a free, no-obligation consulting service for buyers and sellers who have questions or concerns about their escrow. Whether you're just starting the process, mid-transaction, or dealing with an issue that's threatening your closing, we've navigated complex Portland transactions, and we're happy to sit down with you and map out exactly where you stand. Call us at 503-308-9707 or visit VortexREI.com. No pressure, no obligation, just real answers from people who know this market. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe. We put out new content every week to help Oregon homeowners and sellers navigate the real estate process with confidence. I'll see you in the next one.